What's up, everybody? Welcome into A to Z Sports Picks. Brian and I are going to have a great show for you this Tuesday and get you ready for the betting week. Brian, it's good to see you, buddy. How we doing?
Good to see you, brother. How was your weekend? Mine was fantastic.
Yeah, man. You spent your time up there with Dana White and the boys over at UFC 261. Mine wasn't quite near as exciting as yours was, but it was a decent weekend. It was solid, and we're going to jump into that UFC here pretty quickly. I want to make sure everybody, welcome into A to Z Sports Picks. I'm Alan Bell, CBS Sportsline, alongside Brian Edwards of VegasInsider.com. A to Z Sports Picks is brought to you every Tuesday and Friday by BetMGM, the king of sports books. Make sure everyone download that BetMGM app. Do it right now if you haven't. If you use code A to Z Sports, you get a risk-free bet of up to $600. Trust me, I've used it. It's awesome. It will absolutely be there for you as soon as you sign up and get it going in the app. So make sure everybody download that. There's no better week to do it as well with the NFL Draft, Kentucky Derby, games across the board. Now's the time to do it if you haven't. So that's BetMGM, the king of sports books. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. Must be 21 years or older. Must be present in the state of Tennessee. For gambling problem support, call the Tennessee Red Line at 800-889-9789. So, Brian, you're at UFC 261, man. It was an awesome card, awesome main card. No fights. Went to the third round from what I saw out there. How was it? What was your perspective?
Man, it was unbelievable. It was only the fourth UFC show I've been to live, but it was, I think the crowd was extra hyped just because there hasn't been a full capacity crowd in so long. And then the fights just delivered and then some. I mean, the main card, only two of those fights went to the second round. Only one of, Usman knocked out Masvidal a minute and 2 seconds in, and Valentina knocked Andrade out 3 minutes and 19 seconds in. And then even the last fight on the prelims was a one-armed guillotine choke. I don't know if I'd ever seen with one arm. And then they kind of went at it after the fight was over, which you don't see very often. And it was just awesome, man. I mean, the fact that my picks were doing good played a role. The fact that our seats were good, and I was with some old school buddies from Jax that I hadn't hung out with in a long time. And Rose Namajunas shocking the world again. That was great. The Weidman leg injury though was so gnarly.
I was just about to say that. Like it literally felt like the first two fights we were watching just broken legs across the board. I mean, first off, I can't remember the fighter's name, but it looked like his
Anderson knee. Silva, or you mean the one he was Weidman?
Yeah, well, Weidman with the kick, but somebody, it looked like somebody's knee just went out.
Oh yeah, Jimmy Crute, the fight before that. Yes.
Yeah. That was wild, man. Like watching that, like I'd never seen a leg that just didn't work. It legitimately, it just stopped functioning. And then obviously we saw the Weidman leg kick. That was just brutal. And you saw he was fighting Uriah Hall, correct?
Yes.
Like correct. Hall legitimately couldn't look at it. Like he had to turn his head like, dear God, like I can't see this at all. It was craziness. But I'll say this, you brought up a good point. It was really the first sporting event I think that we've had where it was a full crowd. Yeah. And I'll say this, let me say this, not getting political on the mask thing or whatever. I don't ever want to hear again anybody say that fans don't matter in sports, because after this year, they absolutely do. That crowd was electric. That crowd was on fire, and it absolutely made the difference, right? Like I loved it, enjoyed it. It was fantastic. It had to be great from your end.
Yeah, and I mean, even from your end on TV, I mean, the fact that you're speaking so highly of it means you felt it from your living room or wherever you were, at a bar or a friend's party or what have you. And being at like I went to the Florida Alabama game in Atlanta, but it was 20%. I mean, don't get me wrong, we had some noise going on, but just 100% packed house is just a whole different story. It was so awesome, and just one couple little things coming out of it. Nick Diaz, who hasn't fought since 2015, was at the show. Dana said afterwards he wants to fight and he's going to get him a fight. So the MMA hardcore fans are absolutely loving that. And Masvidal, who got knocked out by Usman, but he had beaten Diaz before he fought Usman the first time, is saying if he wants to avenge his baby brother, it can be me. So we might get a Masvidal and Nate Diaz's older brother, Nick. But yeah, it was a great show. Weidman's okay. He shared his x-ray. If anybody wants to see the x-ray, pretty wild, but he's promising he will be back at some point, 6 to 12 months till he can train again. But it was a great show, and I had a blast. And I hope our listeners, I know I missed on Masvidal, but I think I said go small. But the rest of my picks were really good. So.
Yeah, they were. They absolutely were. And I was paying attention to that throughout the night. And you did really well. And you said on the Masvidal, you're like, look, he's a heavy underdog. Don't put a full unit or anything on it, but just, a little baby play. And I did the same thing, in terms of playing it. And because I was rooting for the guy, not that I was rooting against, Usman by any means, but, just wanted to see it. And didn't work out that way. Usman was a heavy favorite for a reason, and he took care of business. Now, I'll say this, speaking of taking care of business, this week is an awesome sports week, and we're going to jump right into it. So starting Thursday, the NFL draft, live from Cleveland. All right, we're going to have a lot of people out there. It's going to look somewhat like it did in Nashville 2 years ago. I don't think it'll be quite that large, but it's going to be awesome. And this is an event now that, in the last few years has become popular in terms of betting on the NFL draft. And we've got some really nice odds out there. I think BetMGM has over 180 different options that you can bet on, from anywhere from, number of players at certain positions drafted in the first round, position group that each specific team drafts in the first round, et cetera. And they're going to have all kinds of live bets pop up as well during the draft. But what we want to do is we're going to kind of break it down real quick, see what we're looking at, see what we've bet on, and and just kind of run through at least the first round. And we'll see, obviously on our show Friday, what we have in store that night and then for the rest of the weekend. But we'll go ahead and kick it off. Now, Brian, the first bet that I have, and I've talked about it before, Travis Etienne, the first running back drafted, plus 165. Now, understand this. It's pretty much down to Najee Harris, who's the favorite to go first, and Travis Etienne second. And I honestly, this is what you're going to get with a lot of, bets in the draft. It's going to be pretty tight. And you're either going to take a favorite or you're going to try, and put a little money on an underdog. And that's kind of what I'm doing with mine. So I've got Etienne going, first running back taken. I've also got the Titans drafting a linebacker with their first pick at plus 190. Now, again, you're going to have, Titans first round pick, a linebacker at plus 900. I'm sorry about that. You're going to have a lot of different options for a team like the Titans, who can seemingly draft at any position except for quarterback and running back. So that's going to make it a little bit difficult. And they could even be a team that trades out. But I'm going to take my shot at linebacker because, again, in this 3-4 defense, I think that could be an option for, kind of that edge position. So that's really where I'm going with this team. Those are the two that I have. Brian, what are you looking at for the draft?
Okay, so our friends at BetMGM, they have a prop for Najee Harris to be the first running back off the board and Penei Sewell to be the first O lineman off the board. I think it's a lock for Sewell to be the O lineman. Yeah. Like Alan said, we differ there, but not by much. I love Etienne, and I'm sure you love Najee, but he likes the underdog odds. And by the way, did you say 160? Because I'm checking the BetMGM app, and you'll be thrilled. Or you maybe already said 160, but they're 165 on Etienne now. So as you know,
there we go.
5 cents. So I think it's going to be Najee, but here's the deal. Like with that, I mean, Alan just needs one GM to agree with him, and all I need is one GM to agree with me. And that's betting the NFL draft. So that the price on that is minus 125 for Sewell and Najee. BetMGM, I haven't seen any player over-unders. I think I've said this at least once, maybe twice on our shows. I like Najee under 29.5 is what I saw at DraftKings as recently as like Friday. And I don't think there's any way he lasts past 24 Pittsburgh. I think if he's there for Pittsburgh, that they will take him. And I may have even said this already, and there may be different odds at different books, but you can go ahead. As long as he goes to the Bengals or Falcons, Kyle Pitts will be the rookie of the year. And I saw 10-1 odds. And as long as he's with Matt Ryan or Joe Burrow, he'll be rookie of the year. So there's two right there. And the Pitts over under keeps bouncing around. I betted it under 5.5 several weeks ago. And then I saw some books now having it 4.5. I still think he's going to my Falcons. And even if the Falcons trade out, I think they'll be doing it for somebody to come up and get Pitts. Although possibly they could come up to get one of the QBs, but I still think it's a decent bet at under 4.5.
Yeah, I do too. And, obviously the draft starts at number 3 with what the 49ers do in terms of seemingly at this point, it seems like whichever quarterback, that they're going to take. And then, then at number 4, what do the Falcons do? Do they go quarterback? Do we have a draft that starts quarterback, right? Like we've never seen that before. So it's going to be an interesting, first round. I think that if you look position by position, the over-unders are pretty much there. I think that, the areas where you could find a little bit of value, might be wide receiver. I believe the over-under set at 4.5 at wide receiver. You could go, it could be anywhere from 4 to 7. And I've been doing my work on this. Legitimately, it all depends on if there's a run or not. And again, this is a heavy, kind of slot wide receiver draft to where there's going to be talent found in the second round, talent found in the third round, even talent found in the fourth round at wide receiver. So I don't necessarily believe that there's going to be 6 to 7. But yeah, I mean, it's tough because you got to, you have to assume Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, like those 3 are going to go probably top 15, and then you're playing with 2, right? Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to throw you a question, and I'll get my opinion on it too. Who has? Well, I guess it would depend on what team they go to, but so I'll just say who has the better career wide receiver, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, or Devontae Smith?
That's a great question, man, because
it's a tough one.
It is, man. And you look at all 3, and you're right. Anything in the NFL, especially with the draft, it obviously has to do with what team that you go to. But again, here's my thing. People are going to say Jamar Chase, and I can't argue against it. People are going to say Jalen Waddle is the best overall wide receiver in this draft, and I can't argue against it. Devontae Smith is my guy. I mean, what I saw last year from him, and again, I know that Alabama's super talented, but this dude legitimately was out of the game in the national championship by halftime because, I mean, he was just running amok. Like, legitimately, it looked like an already 3, 4, 5-year NFL vet playing against a really good Ohio State team, right? So if I had to bet on it, I'm taking Devontae Smith. I know there's questions about, his overall size in terms of his weight, him being, a thin guy. But, dude, I've seen thin wide receivers for a while. Like, this guy legitimately has everything that I would want if I were drafted.
I wonder what Jerry Rice weighed coming out of Mississippi Valley State. I don't know the answer to that, but I bet he didn't weigh a whole lot more than 170.
I can't remember what Randy Moss weighed. Now, Randy Moss is much, taller. Yeah, but again, I mean, Randy Moss now is a thin guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm not too terribly worried about that whatsoever. I saw with my eyes what Devontae Smith did, and the guy's incredible.
I'm sorry. Oh, I was going to say, what you saw with your eyes, what I saw, and everybody saw with their eyes, if they were open, is not only was he catching touchdown after touchdown. I mean, how many times did he catch a football and there was nobody 10 yards? There was nobody within 10 yards of him. No. And I mean, I know that you have to pay attention to, Waddle was out in a good chunk of last season. You got to pay attention to Najee. You got to pay attention to other wide receivers. But I mean, Devontae was your focus of your D coordinator and your defensive scheme against Alabama. And for him to be just so flipping wide open all the time was just
he's incredible, man. I know. Like, that's why I don't want to put it all on like Alabama's really good. That's why, like, no, man.
Exactly.
Like, this dude is a stud. So yeah, and we'll talk more about that. In the NFL draft. Obviously, it starts Thursday, but it's an event that goes on all weekend. And we've got another show coming this week for you on Friday, and we'll break down what we saw from the first round, and then your best bets coming for Friday, and then the rest of the picks, throughout the weekend. But let's get to picks right now, Brian. Like, we've got an opportunity here, 2 for the money. Let's each make 2 picks that we have going today, and I'll start with you. What are your 2 best bets on the board today?
All right. Well, I am basically just fading the Houston Rockets with this one. Although, look, Minnesota is suddenly playing some pretty good basketball. Minnesota has won
Utah, right?
Yeah, but twice. Yep. I mean, granted, albeit without Donovan Mitchell, but that squad is still really good even without Donovan Mitchell. But yeah, they beat them last night at home against Utah, and so 3 nights ago they won outright at Utah. So you sweep the team with the best record in the NBA in 2 games in 3 days, and so Minnesota is 4-2 straight up, 5-1 against the spread in their last 6. Now they are in a back-to-back spot, which Houston's actually had 2 days rest, so the spot is extremely advantageous to Houston. But they just lost John Wall to a sounds like it's done for the season.
Yeah.
And Houston is hold on, got it right here. They have lost 36 times compared to 4 wins in their last 40 games. So they're 4-36, their last 40. That's straight up. And they're an abysmal 11-29 against the spread. And I should have looked up when was the last time they were this slim of an underdog. I know it's been a while, but anyway,
Yeah.
Minnesota playing its best ball of the year. There's a couple 1.5s, either 1.5 or 2 at Houston. Now my other one, I'm gonna go with Boston minus 11 at home to OKC. Now they are resting Jason Tatum. And they are also resting Kemba Walker, but we still got Jaylen Brown. We still got Marcus Smart. We still got the most of the key parts for the Celtics. And as we know, OKC, an absolute dumpster fire. They've lost 14 in a row, and they're 3-11 against the spread during that stretch. And OKC is in a back-to-back spot, and Boston is not. And Boston's in bounce-back mode after losing at Charlotte on Sunday. So Boston minus 11 and Minnesota minus 1.5 or 2.
I like it. You got 2 favorites going tonight. All right. So my first one, I'm going Major League Baseball. I'm going the Nationals at the Blue Jays. So, and I'm riding the under of 8.5. And I'll tell you why. First, the Nationals, they're 75% to the under this season on the road, period. All right. And you look at Toronto, the under is cashed in 7 of Toronto's last 8 games. So again, if I'm getting an 8.5 number, I'm going to ride that for sure. You're probably looking pretty close, a 5-3 type of game somewhere around there. But I'm putting my money absolutely on that. And you've got 2 great pitchers on the mound tonight as well. So yeah, that's my first one. I'm going to ride there. Second, I'm going to the NHL. I've got the Boston Bruins at the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm riding the Penguins money line minus 105. Obviously, odds makers see that it's going to be a pretty tight game, especially with Pittsburgh being at home. But you look at the numbers of just straight up between these 2 teams. All right. Pittsburgh, they're 80% straight up at home this season, period. Right. They have shown out, I think, 20-5, somewhere around there. Just a phenomenal run that they've had at home this year. And the Bruins are 1-8 straight up in their last 9 in Pittsburgh. So again, I understand that Boston is a good team, but playing in Pittsburgh has just really been, kind of the devil's nail, so to say, on them. So yeah, I'm going to ride Pittsburgh money line minus 105 tonight, and I'm going to ride the under of 8.5 between the Nationals and Blue Jays. And give me your 2 again.
Yeah, Minnesota minus 1.5 or 2 at Houston. And then let's go Boston minus 11 at home to OKC in its 14-game losing streak.
Nice. I like it. Now, speaking of streaks, all right. So what we want to do right here is take a look at just some trends, streaks, information that we found across any of sports, right? Of what we're finding. And I'll start here first, Brian, and I want you to jump in. With more information. But for me, as a bettor who is not the biggest NBA fan in the world, the biggest NHL fan in the world, even Major League Baseball, I mean, I watch them. Don't get me wrong. I consume them daily, but it's not like the NFL to me, at least, right? So what I've been trying to find is consistency, and it's been difficult. And we'll talk about the NBA here and what you're seeing, what you're finding. But for me, the only consistency, honestly, that I have found is in the NHL. And I've found it in 2 areas. Okay. So if you're playing games straight up in the NHL, home favorites all season long, 63.7%. All right. That's a big, big number. It's been really strong. It's been really nice. Against the spread, NHL, home underdogs, 64.3%. Now, understand that I do get that if you're playing, a plus 1.5, you're going to have to pay some juice. If you're playing a home favorite, you're going to have to pay some juice. So it's not something that you want to do day in and day out, every day, every single bet. But again, it's the only area where I'm finding consistency and I'm hitting nice numbers here. So the NHL has really been nice to me. Now, I kick it over to you. What are you seeing across the NBA? What consistency are you finding? What trends are you finding?
Okay, so the Wizards had been playing great. I think I went on a little rant about them. Maybe it was last Tuesday. or maybe it was the Friday before. And they had their 8-game winning streak snapped last night. It took San Antonio taking them into overtime, but still their numbers here recently have been terrific. Obviously, they've won 8 of 9 with their 8-game winning streak snapped last night. And they're 7-2 against the spread, but they're 2 non-covers. Okay, if you bet Washington anytime between yesterday morning and around 3, maybe 4 in the afternoon yesterday, they were +4 and they lost by 3 in overtime. So if you bet it early, you won on them.
Yeah.
The reason the line shifted is because Russell Westbrook was listed as questionable. And when he got upgraded late in the afternoon, the line moved from San Antonio -4 to San Antonio -2.5. So obviously for our statistical purposes, we have to go with what the closing line is. But if you bet the Wizards early in the day yesterday, they still cashed for you as long as you avoided the money line. And their other non-cover was when they won by 12 to OKC, and they were -12.5. And I had actually bet them at -12 earlier that day and pushed. And then going back a few games further, they're 10-2 straight up, 10-3 against the spread in their last 13. And again, 2 of the non-covers by a half point apiece. So the Wizards are obviously still playing good basketball. We've got Toronto, which, by the way, is a 5-point underdog to Brooklyn tonight. And they had been resting their guys a lot, like Lowry, and Van Vliet actually did have a legit injury. And they don't want Lowry to get hurt because they're wanting to trade him in the offseason. But they're back to playing him a little bit. And Toronto's won 5 of its last 6, both straight up and against the spread. Unders for the Charlotte Hornets have been hitting at a prolific pace. The under's 19-6 for Charlotte in its last 25 games. Now, LaMelo Ball, he might be back later this week or this weekend, and I would say that this stretch of unders has pretty much gone on when Hayward and Ball have been out, so it might not last much longer. And
they've got the Bucks tonight, right?
Yes, and they're +9.
Yeah.
But Milwaukee's back to full strength. I still slightly lean to Charlotte, but I wasn't willing to pull the trigger. But Charlotte has won 3 in a row at home. But yeah, 19-6 to the under. But we've only got a few more games without LaMelo, and I think Hayward's going to be back pretty soon as well. The Mavs are in a little mini slump right now, 2-7 against the spread in their last 9. And let me give you a heads up on their injury situation tonight. And they are in a back-to-back, and these are big-time injuries in terms of their importance to their team. Luka, the big guy, Kleber, JJ Redick, all 3 of those guys are questionable. And then Porzingis is doubtful, and so is Josh Richardson. So keep that in mind for the Mavs tonight. And Portland is also a 5-point favorite tonight at Indiana. And Portland has lost 5 in a row and 7 of 8. However, 4 of their losses have been by 5 combined points. They lost 3 games by 1 point and another one by 2 points. And Sabonis is out for Indiana. Miles Turner remains out as well. And Portland is back to full strength except for Zach Collins. I mentioned OKC and Houston's abysmal slumps. Minnesota's a little hot. And I think that's all I had for going streaky.
Nice. I love it, man. And I'll say the reason I brought up Charlotte, I am on the side playing Charlotte +9 tonight.
I'll lean that way.
Going off of exactly what you said. I'm kind of hoping for a low-scoring game. And, I think that Milwaukee's going to win, but if I could get 9, I'm going to ride it. Again, it's not something I'm putting a full unit on. I didn't even include it, in our 2 best bets today, but something I saw, something I kind of liked last night. Yeah.
That out, and it'll encourage listeners on that pick and thought process from Alan. The Bucks have struggled on the road against the spread, 12-18 against the spread this year, and Charlotte's been solid at home, 16-12 straight up, 16-11-1 against the spread. Let's remember they haven't had Hayward and Ball, which are their 2 best players, for a month now and change.
Yeah. Any the real Ryan 24 asked, any thoughts on Nets Raptors?
Toronto's playing good. I just kind of don't trust. I mean, Durant came back, played well the other day. They beat Phoenix, and Phoenix has just been killing everybody and ended the Knicks. There's a streak I left out. Yeah, the Knicks is 12 game ATS streak was snapped last night.
Yeah, I had the Suns -1. It was nice.
Oh, there you go. Well, we differed. I had the Knicks and you won. So you were the smarter man last night for sure. Man, real Ryan, I'm not gonna say I'm definitely passing, but I'm gonna wait for the injury information because Toronto's kind of in tank mode, and I just kind of want to be sure. And teams like Toronto, I've got to wait. And then you never know with Kevin Durant and Kyrie. Seems like they're late scratches all the time too. So I just think you should wait for the injury info, and I don't have that now. So I gotta say, no opinion really.
Yeah, and that's where it's really difficult, especially right now in the NBA, is that you really do have to wait for a lot of these games in terms of the injury information, and you got to get bets in legitimately with 30, 20, 10 minutes, before tip. It can be really tough, but you're right. Pay attention to it because it absolutely does matter. Now, to end the show, what I want to do is kind of break down the Kentucky Derby. So we have that coming this Saturday, and this might be something to where we've all watched it, we've all seen it, but it might be Bettor's first time actually putting money on it, right? And what I want to do is we got the post today, from Churchill Downs, and let's break it down. Let's talk about it real quick and talk about the bets that are available for this, because there's so much more than just picking a winner, which, don't get me wrong, can be difficult enough, but there are a lot more bets that are available, so you could really make it a fun day. There's a reason why they call it the most exciting 2 minutes in sports, because it really is. Now, so what you want to know starting off, your favorite is Essential Quality at 2-1. Okay, so with this horse, this is a gray horse, and if people don't know, there's a mystique with gray horses in the the horse racing, horse betting community, that gray horses are just faster, right? When you see a gray, you bet a gray, right? Like that's kind of been the attitude about it forever. And this is a beautiful, beautiful gray horse. So that's going to be your favorite. You're going to see Bob Baffert out there with his beautiful white hair that we see every year.
That's gray hair, dude. That's gray hair on Mr. Baffert.
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to see that. Your other, real high favorites. Second is going to be Rock Your World at 5-1, Known Agenda at 6-1, and then Hot Rod Charlie at 8-1. But so now that we see those, what I want to talk about are the available bets that you have. Okay, so first off, you could bet obviously just on the winner, what most people will do. Who's going to win the race, which horse, that's all you go. But excuse me, there are other options that are available for this. And if you look at traditional bets, all right, so we'll pick it, what's called a win. That's betting if the horse finishes first. All right, place. That is betting on, you're betting one horse to finish first or second in the race. Show. You're betting on a horse to finish first, second, or third in the race. So if you take a look at all these options that you have, now, obviously, your payouts are going to go down, with the amount of risk that lessens, which each one of those three, but you can use those to your advantage if you don't know much about these horses, if you don't, necessarily want to go with the favorite of Essential Quality, you have those options. Now, let's take a look at what we call the exotics, the multi-horse bets. Excuse me, this pollen is killing me. All right, so first, an exacta. Okay, so you're going to hear this a lot. An exacta is when you pick two horses that have to finish first and second in that exact order. Okay, so you got to pick the horse that wins, and you got to pick the horse that finishes second in the race. Cannot move, cannot change. It has to be those two. A trifecta, essentially, you got to pick the horses that finish first, second, and third. And then a superfecta, you pick the horses that finish first, second, third, fourth, all in exact order. Obviously, those are really difficult to hit, but people don't put much money down on those. Those are, 10-cent type bets, $1. Like, you're not going to put a lot down on those, but you're going to have the option to really make a ton of money if you can nail those, which again is really, really difficult, especially in a race where you have horses that are 2-1, 5-1, 6-1, 8-1. It's going to be really difficult to hit those, but it is possible. Let me say this. We'll break it down more on Friday's show of where we're placing our money, where we're looking at what we're going to, place for a win. If we're placing anything on place, show, exactas, trifectas, superfectas, we'll break all that down Friday. But I wanted to just kind of get that out there for anybody who's possibly never really bet on it before. It's a lot of fun. And I'm telling you, if you jump into it, you don't have to throw a ton of money into it. But if you do, it's a lot of fun. So, Brian, after all that, you look like you're a superfecta man. You look like you're just going to drill all 4 right in a row.
Man, I don't even know if I'll have a bet on the Derby. I just like to stick to what I know, and I know nothing about the ponies, unfortunately. Hey, I will add one thing just because I remember you talking about it on Friday. You were talking about how the state of Tennessee and how they had, reported their numbers.
Yep.
My guy Ben Fox over at VSiN, he's got the list of how much handle was done in March. It was New Jersey was the top at 860 mil, Nevada 641, then Pennsylvania 560, Michigan 384 million, obviously Indiana 317, and so Tennessee had the 6th most handle with 206 million.
Nice. That's really nice. That's the second time, in what, 4 or 5 months that Tennessee's hit over 200 million in a handle. That's good info. I'm glad you said that. Yeah, that's a really nice number. That's a nice number for Michigan as well. For them being, coming out of the gate, that's a large number to get into the 3s. Yeah.
How many months are we into it for Tennessee now?
It's been since November. Excuse me. I'm so sorry, everybody. My throat is killing me with this pollen and everything.
You're fine.
Yeah, it's been since November. So November, December, January, February, March, into April. So that's what, 6? Yeah, we're in our 6th month here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just to round it out, Iowa was 7th at 161 million. Then New Hampshire 56 million. Mississippi 9th, 51 million. West Virginia 10th, 43 million. He did say of the states reporting so far. And what number are we at now? Are we at 25 or 6 states legal, somewhere in there?
I think it's a little less than that, but yeah, it's somewhere there. Yeah, and that's a good number for Michigan, and that's a really good number for Pennsylvania as well. I mean, obviously it's a large state, but yeah, I mean, what we're seeing, I think that now we've reached this year, it's reached over, I can't remember the number. Yeah, like Pennsylvania is. Forget the stat. I lost the stat. I can't remember it. But Pennsylvania is crushing it. Like, that state is doing really well. Tennessee's doing really well. Michigan's doing really well. It's such a popular thing. It's going to continue to go. I think Florida's pretty soon, right?
Yeah. I mean, DeSantis, the governor, put in some legislation last week. I mean, I think it has to come up to a vote, but it's got good support, and I'm fired up. About time, better late than never. I was just going to say, like, all these numbers, when it was just Nevada, so that just shows you how much volume of illegal gambling there was.
Yeah,
it still is in the non-legal states.
Yeah, bookies are taking a hit in these states. And the crazy thing is this, talking about Florida, like, these numbers are already massive across the country, and we don't have Florida
and California or Texas.
California. Like, these numbers are going to be I mean, who knows when California does this, but I think Texas and Florida are both somewhat pretty soon. I think Florida's obviously going to beat them, beat Texas in terms of that. So, yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. It's good to see. You're right. There's a lot of bookies that have been put out of business, man.
Right. Yeah. It's great to see. Better late than never.
Yep.
Love it.
So, yeah. So, everybody, thank you again for tuning in. We want to make sure, download that BetMGM app. Do it right now. If you use promo code A to Z Sports, you'll get a free pick of up to $600. I've used it. It works. Trust me. There's no better week to do it than right now. And there's no better bet than knowing that if you lose, you can get that money back. So,
hey, hold on one last thing. When we see you Friday, I hope I'm still an Atlanta Falcons fan. I hope I'm still a Dirty Bird, y'all. Yeah. I hope. We'll find out Friday or Thursday night.
You want Pitt, don't you?
I'm burning my Falcons card if he's not a Falcon. I'm burning my Falcons card.
I love it. So, yeah, for Brian Edwards, I'm Alan Bell, and let's cash some tickets, everybody. Thank you.
Look.